So if you're in the market for a good pair of earbuds from Samsung, let me help you out. So I hate to bring up the AirPods right away, but it's better to get it out of the way for when someone asks you why you bought the Buds 3 or the Buds 3 Pro instead of the AirPods. First up, it has a clear top, which looks much better. The Pros have that LED on the stem, or blade as Samsung calls it, which will let you know the battery percentage. The blades are much easier to operate, and the case can finally be used as a case, because I've dropped this thing so much already and there's not even one scratch. So you won't need to buy a case for your case. And finally, you can set it up straight because it has a flat bottom and top. Now that that's out of the way, let's continue on why you would want either of these two. The most obvious difference is of course the ear tips. There is always two camps, one that hates those and wants the have-in-ear version, and the ones that cannot listen to music without the in-ear silicone tips. But I'll stay neutral and I'll tell you the pros and the cons of both. First up, the bass. There is a difference. I tested these for a while and kept switching between them, and the only difference I could notice was that the bass was much punchier on the Pros. That's not to say that the regular ones have less bass, because it still sounds pretty much identical, it's just that it gets across a little better on the Pros. Now, as far as the quality of the sound goes, there is a little clarity difference, as the highs are EQ'd a little differently. The Pros sound a little better, but at like 35% better, which is oddly specific, I know, but I feel like 25% is too little. This is comparing them with advanced audio setting UHQ ultra high quality on. Now, one important detail is that these make use of Samsung's own seamless audio codec, which can only be used on an S or Z product of the last 2 years or so. Now, I'm currently reviewing the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6, so that's also what I base this review on. If you put the Buds 3 at EQ Dynamic, I think they sound as close as possible to how the Pros sound. But all things considered, at a $60 difference between the two, I am really impressed with how the Buds 3 sound. Now, there's brands out there where you can have a whole new pair for $60, so even though the Pros are the better ones, they aren't needed to enjoy a high quality sound at all. But if you use these a lot, you will probably find that these are just the better option as far as the audio quality goes. There's also 360-degree audio, which is Samsung's equivalent of spatial audio, and if you're familiar with that, it's basically sound coming from all directions, instead of it sounding more like two sets of speakers. It does sound more advanced, more full if that makes sense, when it's turned on, so I like it, but I feel like this is a little subjective, because turning it off doesn't make the quality any less, it's just different in my opinion. Now, as far as the fit goes for the tips, I fitted them before testing using the Wearables app, and it told me that the right side had a poor fit. So I had to change that to a size smaller. So I ended up with a regular fit on the left and a size smaller on the right, which ended up in a perfect fit. Now, I could also notice a big difference in the ANC. So if you're going for the Pros, make sure you test that for the ultimate experience. The Buds 3 Pros come with 2 extra size tips. So there's 3 sizes in total, which are pretty easy to miss in the package. So make sure you don't throw those away. I haven't noticed them falling out at all, even when speaking and laughing, it didn't move. Which is something I cannot say for the AirPods Pro 2nd Gen I tested 3 months ago. Now, I did notice some fatigue after listening like an hour or so, nothing too crazy, but it's still noticeable. Now, that's most likely because the tips are only silicone on the outside and have a plastic core, which is very hard. Now, for the sake of completeness, the AirPods Pro 2nd Gen don't have a plastic core, but a harder type of silicone, which is still much softer than these. Thus, I find them more comfortable on long listening sessions. This is something you must also consider. Another reason they might have gone this route is the way you snap on the tips if you want to replace them with a different size, which has that click too, which can only be achieved with a plastic core. I don't find the way to replace the tips too convenient, to be honest, but once they're installed, they are snug alright. Now, the Buds 3 don't have that problem, since they're just sort of hanging onto your ear instead of being in ear. I noticed that with talking and laughing, you could notice them moving a little, which is pretty annoying if you're used to the tips. But I always preferred the half in-ear models due to just how easy it is, and that's still the case here too. I didn't have to readjust them at all, it's just that you notice them being not as snug, if that makes sense. Then there's also the gestures. Luckily, they both featured exactly the same possibilities. And thus you can control the volume by swiping up and down on the backside of the blade. With the volume up motion though, you really have to support it with another finger or else it might fall out. You can pause by holding both sides and pressing one time, skip with a double press, and the previous song by going with a triple tap. But you can also press and hold to switch the mode it's in. And that's also for both models, since the Buds 3 also have active noise cancellation. But on the Buds 3, there's only the option to turn it on or off. Whereas with the Pros, you have multiple options, being off, ambient sound, adaptive, and active noise cancellation. Now, ambient sound is basically using the external mic to pick up sounds around you and mix them with the music you're playing, without too much active noise cancellation, to still give you that ability to hear what's going on around you. Now, adaptive does that too, but will filter out consistent sounds like running water, rain, etc. It will basically read your surroundings to filter out certain noises and enhance others. And then there's ANC, where it will filter basically everything to give you the silence you need when listening to music or without. Now, Samsung also included the feature of finding your earbuds. If you have the earbuds out of the case, you can ping them using the Wearables app. This is instant. Now, even though the Buds 3 and the Pros blades look the same, it's only the Pros that feature those LEDs. So when you ping them, you will only hear a noise to make them easy to find. The LEDs make it really easy to find them in the dark. But then let's say you lost them while they are inside of the case, which is probably the situation most find themselves in, to be honest. You cannot instantly ping them and find them. You will have to go to the Find app and from there select the earbuds, then select Search nearby, and this will prompt a search timer of 5 minutes, and from my experience it needs 2 to 3 minutes on average to find them, from which you can then ping them to and find them using either the LEDs on the stem or with the song that is playing. I mean, it's still better than nothing, but when I'm in a hurry, I don't want to wait 2 minutes for it to find them, because I will be searching for these two in the meanwhile, and I've probably found them already. So a little mixed feelings about that feature. Now, the LEDs can be customized. You can have them on all the time by pinching in and holding the stems on both earbuds, and in the Wearables app, you can change how they behave too. You can have them blinking, fading in and out, but also just a steady LED. The cases feel really durable, feels premium and not as finicky as the AirPods cases do. I really enjoy this design so much more than that one. It has no scratches, the hinge feels really strong, and it doesn't feel like it's going to break every time I open it. The only thing I've noticed with it is that it gets really smudgy over time. So you'll have to clean those more regularly. They are both charged with USB-C, which is always good. As far as the battery life goes, I don't have any issues with them. I use them for hours at a time. Samsung claims it has 6 hours of listening with the ANC on and then 26 more in the case, but I feel like it's closer to 4.5 on the earbuds themselves per charge. It's all so dependent on which settings you have turned on and use. It's really difficult to give an exact statistic yet, but I'll keep you updated on my findings in the pinned comment down below to make things as accurately as possible.